The devil in my dreams. Last night, I couldn't sleep again. Most nights recently, I find I am having trouble falling asleep. However, I do eventually, but I always wake up pretty quickly. Like an hour or 1.5 hours max later, and last night was no different. I fell asleep around 3:30, woke up at about 5 and couldn't sleep again for hours. Last time I checked, the clock was at 7:30 and then I fell asleep again. I have been having very vivid dreams lately. Nearly every night I've dreamt I'm with my younger brother. We're usually heading to festivals or gigs or something like this. Although we never seem to arrive. It always just seems to be a journey. They feel very real, and the duration usually consists of me sharing my latest adventures in life with him. He never speaks to me but interact and communicate non-verbally, almost like telepathy. It makes me wonder, are these more akin to visitations rather than dreams, as my bro passed away over 6.5 years ago. Anyway, after I fell asleep this morning, I again had a very vivid and intense dream. It began in what I perceived to be a great big foyer, like the entrance to a massive church or museum. Every wall white, the brightest white. Now I think back, it must have been the waiting room. The people in the dream were again my brother and I, my fiancée, and somebody I didn't recognize. We seemed to be on a tour of this place, whatever it may be. After a while, two great big white doors, which before were invisible, opened. They looked just like the wall. On the other side of this door was a very confusing, ever-changing mass of staircases. Each staircase was the same brilliant white, but with golden trimmings on every step. The staircases moved in some kind of synchronized system. I could tell it was a system, but I couldn't figure it out. There was an infinite number of staircases, and they all moved at exactly the same time. Once they stopped, what looked like a hallway would open at the top of each set of steps. These hallways seemed to be calling us, but the problem was the staircases only stopped for about 10 seconds, and then in an instant everything moved again. I wanted to get to one of the hallways, but couldn't find the right timing to jump off the platform and onto a staircase. Eventually my brother jumped, and it seemed we were all pulled with him. We didn't only land on the closest staircase, though we seemed to almost glide to one far off in the distance. The feeling of excitement in my stomach as I jumped was similar to euphoria. If you've ever seen The Matrix, think to the scene where Neo learns he has the ability to jump from skyscraper to skyscraper. Once we were all off the platform and onto a staircase, we looked at each other and in sync began to run to the top in order to reach the hallway, but before we reached the last step, the hallway closed and every staircase, including the one we were running up, began to move. It was very difficult to keep our footing, and in the confusing motion we fell off the staircase, landing on top of the one that stopped below us. I quickly jumped up and ran through the newly formed hallway at the top of this next staircase. Inside this hallway was countless artifacts and images. The walls were tapestries of great art, some divine in nature, others demonic. Everything in here too seemed to fluctuate and move, constantly rotating and elevating, endless movement. Everything around us seemed grande, glistening white and gold, royal reds and blue, and then something green just positioned itself directly in front of me. I didn't even think before I reached out to grab it, as I wanted to understand or learn something here. When my eyes focused, I could see I had a $1 bill in my hand. However, it was encased behind glass. The rim of the glass met some material I can't define, which white with a gold trim around the very edge. I looked at the dollar bill, studying it for any information. I looked over the pyramid, its 13 steps and the great eye on top when I heard wings flutter and something land beside me, followed immediately by guttural voice which said, "Ah, the most powerful of all the prisons of man." I looked to my left and was met with a being of some sort. It landed on all four and resembled an animal similar to a deer or a horse with horns at first, but was transforming as it spoke into a skinny but muscular creature now resembling a man hunched over with a shaved head and wings like a dragonfly, translucent and very long. It continued, "Yes, this is the prison man has built for its fellow man while still transforming." Its head now had hair long and slightly curly, but what shocked me most was each eye had two pupils. One was sky blue and the other was marble green. I looked at this thing and didn't feel fear, more amazement. I didn't feel threatened, but curious. It looked at my fiancé and brother from one eye with two pupils, one looking at each, and with its other eye it looked at me and the other person with us which I didn't recognize. Again, one pupil focused on me while the other was on him. The other person made a snide remark to the being and was instantly vanquished. It made me think of the people vaporized by the nuclear bombs in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. His silhouette embedded on the nearest wall like a shadow painting. His horror and terror too. I asked it, "Where are we and who are you?" Without speaking, the letters LUCIFER seemed to inscribe inside my head, and with that everything evaporated around us into mist, including my brother, my fiancé, everything and everyone except the being and I, until it was total darkness. Then when I awoke,